What's going on? Angel624 here. Gonna bring you a video, review, overview, series, whole. Not gonna spoil it for you. Over the last, now gonna be a little over 10 years, the first-person perspective, camera, the horror movie genre, more, you know, first person, I'd like to call it. I'll call it first person perspective horror movies, where mostly it's viewed through the eyes of a person looking through a camera. That's where it mostly lies. You're looking at films like Blair Witch Project, Cloverfield, Quarantine, and the Paranormal Activity series. I'm going to be reviewing, of course, the Paranormal Activity series today. Not going to spoil it. Not going to go over plot reviews. Just specific things that I find good about the films and bad about the films. These films really shaped this genre of first-person perspective. Blair Witch started it back in 1998, 99. These movies have really formed it into something. That many view as cheap, many view as genius. I'm heading more towards genius now. After watching all three films, it really goes to show what these movies had done. There are jump scares, but listen, jump scares, I mean, you're going to have them. You've had them since the slasher movies. I mean, it's just in another perspective. It's in that third-person perspective where you're looking at the character getting killed. That's what it is. You know, you've had Freddy Krueger, Jason, they jump out of somewhere. You've had jump scares before. Jump scares make horror movies. You gotta accept it. The thing about the jump scares in this movie is some of them are timing-based, but some of them really you don't know what's going to happen. The clues aren't good. Like, a light could be flickering, something, but what is that going to lead to for its cause and effect? What is the effect going to be? We know what the cause is. We know what he's flickering the lights or he's moving something, but what is it going to result in? It's cause and result rather than cause and effect, but you know what I'm saying. To start off, Paranormal Activity 1 drops in theaters in 2007, shocks the world, makes a lot of money, and becomes the new blockbuster film series for October. I believe it came out in October. Let's take a look. I believe it did, but you never know. You never know. Anything is possible. Yeah, but the films are really, really something incredible. I mean, this first movie, when it dropped, I mean, nobody knew what was going on. I mean, when this movie dropped, it actually did. It dropped October 16th, 2009. Every year, it would become the new Halloween horror movie. The new Halloween horror movie. It really would become something great. And, you know, the acting is believable as it's going to get. I mean, not all acting is great. You're talking about a horror movie, you know, a horror movie that, you know, isn't terrible, but, you know, it isn't, it's a horror movie. I mean, come on. I mean, the acting in horror movies, you know, aren't perfect. Nothing is perfect. But you gotta, you accept it for what it is, and it's okay. Katie and Mika did a good job. They are playing themselves, of course. So, so it's all good with that. We know it's not real. But I have to say that this movie, is one of those when, like, Blair Witch dropped, it had the best internet campaign. When this dropped, didn't know much about it. Because it had come out two years prior in independent, films and stuff like that. So nobody really knew what was going on. And the budget was like $15,000. So it's really something incredible that this movie had done as well as it did with such obviously, those movies have a small budget. Here's a fun little fact that I recently found out. The theatrical release of this film had no closing credits. After the final scene, a title card offered the fate of Katie and Mika. Then there was a brief showing of copyright and other protections, and the screen went black for a few seconds before the standard blue screen showing the movie's rating appeared. It's crazy, you know, this really was a very hyped up movie, but it delivered. That's the thing, it delivered. It really, really did. It delivered into something incredible that you look at it and you go, wow. I mean, this is going to be something great. We've stumbled upon something that could very well, you know, really do something really, really good. Anyway, then we move on to Paranormal Activity Dose, which I consider to be the best movie in the series. People, you know, that they don't agree with me. People are like, whatever, you know, I don't think you're right about that. No. This movie, to be honest, there's so many different elements that make it great. That make it wonderful. I mean, the elements of the child, the dog, and all the different things. You know, the male still being the skeptic, but being a hero this time, and we see him being a hero. It's just a lot of different things. I think that where the film falls short to the first is the scares. There's too many short scares and not enough long ones. The ending scare is perfect. The two last scares are perfect. And I think that it just makes a lot of sense. The ending is so shocking. I mean, it ties it together so well with the series, and it makes so much sense that how can you not like a film like that? It's taking itself seriously. You know, it's not like, oh, continuity error it's all about. No, it ties it together perfectly with Katie, with the first movie. I think that it's really quite an incredible thing that a movie like that would take itself seriously enough to tie everything together. You don't really get that with a lot of movies nowadays. A lot of movies really don't tie itself together. This one did. And it's a horror movie nonetheless. Think of all the horror movie sequels and trequels and quadruplets and all that shit. They don't really tie themselves together. I think maybe after the trilogy, that's when shit goes to fan. So maybe we'll see, because there is, of course, talks of a Paranormal Activity 4 coming out. I mean, we knew that was going to happen. This is the next big Hollywood franchise, horror movie, October Halloween franchise. So, you know, it really does say something. This movie, though, and I'll reiterate this again, you can't watch this in the daytime because the effect really doesn't take hold very well. This is a nighttime film, and I'll address that. I'll address something else at the end of the video. Finally, we get to the last and the most recent Paranormal Activity film, Paranormal Activity 3, released the next year in 2011. This is where things start to really go awry, but not so much to where it completely destroys the film. I will say that the only issue that I have with the film is the ending and the whole occult thing. I mean, that's the only spoiler that I'm really, really giving. You cannot tell me, and I mean this, you can't look at me in the eyes and tell me that that occult tie-in was good, because it wasn't. It took away from the mysticism of the film and made it too real. Too real. It made it so real to when it was completely unbelievable. I mean, you couldn't believe it. It was like physical people. It's like the evilness of this cult of women make it unreal. even though they're real people. A demon would not work with the occult. It wouldn't happen. That's way too Blair Witch ripoff. You're ripping off Blair Witch like that. The occult. I mean, what are you kidding me? You didn't need that. It made no. It was good, but it didn't need to be there. It really did nothing for the film, other than just add another element to it and an interesting ending. And it showed that the two little girls were brainwashed and they can't remember anything. Why they can't remember anything, and why their lives would eventually go to shit, and why, the demon. I guess maybe the occult serves the demon. The cult of women serves the demon. Toby. The demon's name is Toby. It probably has like a name like Pazuzu, Lululu, Ginger Ale. I'm kidding. I'm just not taking this so seriously. I just think the occult twist, and that's the only problem I really have with the film. Other than that, the scares are by far the best. But that's the scares. I'm talking about the plot as a whole. The second one's plot was just perfect in that it tied it in with the first plot. This is in left field. I mean, the occult storyline, Toby, the fact that I like the fact that Katie at Julie, who is Katie and Christy's mom, is the skeptic. I love it. I will say, though, now thinking about it now, in theaters, it probably was this is a film that you could watch anytime because of that occult tie-in. It makes it so creepy. That it's so eerie. I think that's what it is, and I don't like. This isn't a movie that can really be eerie. It just has to be balls in the face, just straight up, like suspense, and just like waiting for, not just creepy old ladies who are having ceremonies and shit. I think why it's creepy now is because the girls were brainwashed. They're never going to remember anything that happened. And they're so helpless. And now Katie being... nobody knowing where she is, and she took Hunter. Spoiler alert. It drives home a really big fact. And I think about it now, and I think about it is a bit creepy. But completely left field as opposed to originally where this film wasn't left field and it was very down to earth and real. And where Paranormal Activity 4 will go, who knows? If I had to give the series something, I'd probably give it like a really nice B plus A minus. I mean, not as millennium changing films, but just because it really brings something to the table that these films are so different in really shaping a genre of horror movies. Because before I went to bed last night, these movies make you notice all the things that you wouldn't notice before. And that shows that a film has an effect on you. And why the people that sit on the internet and say, oh, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to watch these fucking films. We know that. We're not watching it because we think they're millennium of the millennium movies. They're not millennium changing movies. They're not movies that are going to be remembered 20 years from now, 30 years from now. But they do make you feel something. And I love where this series has right now. If it were to stop right now, it'd be perfect. But of course, Hollywood is, of course, doing their normal, usual nonsense. I hope that the fourth really is successful, and I hope that they keep it on a good path. That's all I can hope for. Anyway, Angel624 signing out. Keep in touch. We got some really good stuff coming up over the summer with Quiet Asylum films. So thank you for watching. Have a good one.